Johnny Mac, poolside once again with your daily comedy news. I think it's the Letterman in me. Not that I'm David Letterman, but he used to sometimes do the show from the office or weird locations. And I always found it amusing when I was a viewer of Late Night with David Letterman. So, yeah, I'm poolside. The weather's nice, and I don't feel like sitting in the windowless basement. Jeff Bezos announced that next month he'll be flying aboard his company's first manned rocket to space. Jimmy Fallon said, yeah, Bezos will be the first person in space to look down and say, I can actually see my house from here. That's a great joke. We should just go in the pool now. We're not going to top that. That's as good as today's podcast gets. You can punch out. Jimmy Kimmel said, I know the real reason Jeff Bezos wants to go into space. It's so he can see everything he owns. See, that's a worse version of the same premise. See the comparison there? Jimmy Fallon, writers wrote, yeah, after the country reopened, most people bought a new bathing suit, maybe some hard seltzer. This guy buys James Bond and a ticket to space. Fallon writers, you guys are crushing it. Seth Meyers, if Jeff wants to see space so badly, he should just open one of his packages. These are good. Trevor Noah, I think space travel is a natural fit for the owner of Amazon. Astronauts are just workers who have to wear diapers because they don't get bathroom breaks. Zing. Fallon, that's right. Bezos says it's perfectly safe because he's being packed by the same people who ship Amazon boxes. Trevor, you know who this is great news for? Elon Musk, because you realize for a few hours he can be like, haha, I'm the richest man on earth. Yes, the richest man. He's back. I'm going to go back to tweeting about Bitcoin. Trevor, my favorite part of the story is Jeff Bezos' ship is auctioning off another seat for the trip. Why? You're Jeff Bezos. Just pay the extra money to not sit with a stranger on a trip to space. I mean, this is the culmination of your childhood dream. You don't want to spend it fighting over the armrest, Trevor. And I know $2.8 million sounds like a lot of money for a trip to space, but keep in mind that's basically how much it costs to change your flight on United. Page 6 says Trevor Noah could be back with Mika Kelly, and he's just as happy about it as the rest of us. The Daily Show host flashed a big smile for paparazzi as he and Mika Kelly strolled through New York last weekend, throwing in the classic finger guns for good measure. Page 6 speculates perhaps Trevor's in such a good mood since he and Kelly were rumored to have broken up just a few weeks ago. A source had told People magazine in May that Trevor and the Friday Night Lights actress had gone their separate ways after dating for 9 months. It's unclear whether the couple have rekindled their romance or were hanging out as just friends, but they both seem to be in good spirits. Page 6 says Kelly was a vision in orange, dressed in a bright flowing summer dress. She paired the look with a crossbody bag, brown sunglasses, gold hoop earrings, and white sneakers. But what was Trevor wearing? Why won't you tell us what Trevor's wearing? Kelly also carried a face mask and an iced coffee in her hand. BuyMeACoffee.com/dailycomedynews. You know I was going to do that. The New York Times spoke to Michael Che. The Times does this feature like 10 things that you're into. I'll read the comedy ones. Michael Che said, Richard Pryor, live in concert. Richard Pryor live is the greatest piece of stand-up comedy ever recorded. I watch it and feel like a fraud every so often. It's the best at his best. It's so mature. It's so thoughtful. The stuff he's pulling off is seamless and effortless to the point where I don't even know where the crowd work begins and where the written work ends. It's so crazy good. I think it's also the direct line of what today's comedy is. It's personal, it's smart, it's silly, it's perpetual motion. He is also a fan of the table at the Comedy Cellar, saying the Comedy Cellar is my favorite club. It's the club that really, really helped my development as a comedian. I was able to sit around Colin Quinn and Keith Robinson and Jim Norton and Bobby Kelly and Tony Woods and Sherrod Small. All those guys would literally just make fun of you and talk shop and tell old stories about when they were coming up. I sit down with the owner and talk politics. I sit with the booker and she always gives you a hug. It's like home. To me, it's that feeling of Thanksgiving where my mother would be cooking, but the professional version of it for my career. If Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, and Jerry Seinfeld are in town, they will stop at the Cellar. Leanne Morgan caught up with the Naples News, or did the Naples News catch up with Leanne Morgan? I probably should have phrased it that way. Anyway, Leanne Morgan was a stay-at-home mom with 3 children in Bean Station, Tennessee. That sounds like an awesome place. When she was in Bean Station, Tennessee, she began selling jewelry in women's homes, saying, I was just kind of going through life. I was talking about being pregnant, nursing, and hemorrhoids. Let me tell you, that's a prolific time when a woman's having a lot of kids. To me, that's some of the best material I ever had. Her husband's job took them to San Antonio, Texas. Her career took off 22 years ago when she would drive to Austin to perform in comedy clubs. She was thinking about slowing down, and then a video of hers about attending a Journey and Def Leppard concert with her husband went viral. Leanne said, I thought I'm probably going to be a grandmother soon. I was thinking maybe I should hang this up. I've had a good run. It's been fun. In the video, she discusses how rock stars and those sitting around them at the concert looked frail and old. Leanne said, I could feel it. It was just like magic. I said to my husband, something is happening with this video. I don't know if men like that more than the other material I put out, but people could relate to it. And I think everybody's been to a concert, and the Eagles look 100. More comedy news from Page 6. Apparently, Page 6 is, say it with me, your home for comedy news. The longtime girlfriend of late New York City comedian Vic Henley claims that she should inherit his Manhattan apartment. Vic passed away in April 2020 at age 57. He had been dating and living with Nikki Hyland since 2012, according to her lawsuit. The comic did not leave a will behind, but told Hyland that he wanted her to have his Upper East Side apartment if anything ever happened to him, according to the court papers. The documents claim during their relationship, Vic Henley frequently and repeatedly advised Hyland that it was his intention to bequest his home to Hyland in the event he predeceased her. The pair, who were planning to tie the knot in the future, had been living together from the start of their relationship in both her Cleveland, Ohio home and his East 90th Street pad, in an arrangement Vic Henley jokingly called mid-coastal, according to the court papers. The papers add that Hyland negotiated the utility bills, and they shared accounts and passwords to things like Netflix and Amazon Prime. I guess if you share your Amazon Prime password, you are a couple. Hey, huge news. If you're in the San Mateo and San Francisco areas, George Lopez tacos have come to your town as well. George Lopez, PR machine, you guys are doing a great job. Every time I go to prep an episode of the show, George Lopez comes up, and the headline is, George Lopez tacos now available in insert city name here. I love making fun of George Lopez tacos. This particular story says George Lopez tacos is a deconstructed build-your-own taco concept. You pick your protein, chicken tinga, carnitas, or beef ranchero verde, and your meal comes with the shredded meat, corn tortillas, salsa verde, roasted jalapenos, onions, cilantro, and lime wedges. A spicier option adds avocado crema and roasted peppers and onions. So the spin here is that George Lopez lets you pick what you want to put in your taco. Have you been to, like, Chipotle, George Lopez? This is not a thing. You can go into one of these places and they'll be like, would you like beef or chicken? This is a thing. Wait till George Lopez finds out all the options for burritos. He'll be doing another press release. From the Daily Dot, comedian Cody Woods recently released footage of a New Year's Eve gig where he ran as a supporting act with the promise that he torched a chatty Karen in the audience. In the video, he includes a disclaimer in which he puts his day into context by talking about the long flight delay he'd experienced at LAX. The video is titled "The Comedian Humiliates a Karen." Boy, that sounds really cool, Cody Woods. In the video, according to the Daily Dot, Woods alleges that the supposed Karen was incredibly rude, sitting in the front row and openly texting on her phone, talking not just to her friend, but people at other tables who weren't even part of her party, and making rude faces at a performer to get in his head. Well, that's not cool. So Cody Woods says, your friend is so much more fun than you. It's insane. No one's going to take you home. That's the problem. As long as your manners are missing, so will their wedding ring be. All right, that's pretty good, heckle slam. The woman tells him she's been there, done that. Cody Woods jumps back in and says, been there, done that? I can tell. You sound divorced. He then calls the woman a Karen. The woman protests that she's not a Karen and that her name is Gigi. Cody Woods, whose name I can't remember for 2 seconds, I keep having to pause and look it up, uses this to segue into making jokes that are arguably extremely whorephobic and misogynistic. Is whorephobic a thing? He tells Gigi Karen, as the Daily Dot writes the sentence, that she's dressed like she works the corner and asking her, how much for a chicken twister around the corner? Know what I'm saying. At one point later in the set, he announces that vagina is overpriced. The woman can later be seen being escorted out of the show. While the video has been viewed over 660,000 times, upvoted 19,000 times, received hundreds of supportive comments, and even made its way to the FU Karen subreddit. Wow, there's something for everybody. No one seemed to point out the misogyny his jokes against the woman are filled with. The Daily Dot says the woman deserved to be called out for being an allegedly rude audience member, and she seemingly deserved to be eventually booted from the venue. However, there are much better ways to demolish a Karen. TikTok is full of them, than resorting to misogyny. And finally, today, Georgia's Union County Fire and Rescue and EMA has had to issue a statement on Facebook asking residents not to call them every time they hear cicadas. The post reads, Union County E911 is receiving multiple 911 calls for alarms in the neighborhood. Most likely, these alarms are not alarms at all, but a bug, Brood X. The statement points out that the creatures are some of the loudest of all the insects and that their song can be loud enough to cause hearing loss while being mistaken for a vehicle or home alarm system. The post tells us, if you think you hear an alarm, ensure that it is an alarm and determine the location before contacting authorities. Okay, sure. I'm sure it's cicadas, honey. Let's go back to bed. That is your Comedy News Poolside edition for today. If you like what I do, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Daily Comedy News. You can follow this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I do an episode 7 days a week, sometimes even from a proper studio. But today I'm outside. See ya.